and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda tonight is the board calendar public record request. Board, is there any comments or questions about the calendar or record request? That's it. Okay. Next up is the draft resolution for the bond as well as a facilities report. So I will turn it over to Superintendent Hatzenbeaver to discuss the facilities report.
Thank you, Matt. Grandpa and his team were not able to make it tonight, and so it's my pleasure to share some updates from what we learned from the last time we were together. Bonnie, would you mind going to Vivi and stop sharing, and then I'll share, and we'll be able to share that report on the big screen. Thank you. So last time we were together, what Matt and his team discussed is really trying to follow through primarily on the line on safety, health, and security that you had discussed with regard to trying to determine what the cost would be to update the heating and cooling systems to OMS and PTR. And we really didn't get an update on the PTR element until last Friday, so this information is very new. What the architect team, they looked into the current code and a couple of different ways to cool a building. One of those ways would be to add individual cooling units onto each classroom space. That is a little bit less expensive than adding a whole facility chiller, but you won't be able to cool some common systems in that regard. You wouldn't be able to cool a gym, you wouldn't be able to cool a cafeteria or a common space. So they had to look at both of those schools, OMS and PTR, to find out what's possible. With OMS, as we discussed last time, the preferred method to cool that would be to do that whole school chiller, but they weren't quite sure PTR what the best way to do that or what's feasible. So what we learned based on the review is that they're not sure the individual unit method would be permissible under the current code. So we had to look to see what would a whole school cost be. Is it feasible, and how does that fit within the budget we talked about a month ago? So really at this point, based on that feedback, we're presenting a budget to you that would be representative of a whole school chiller method to cool PTR with similar at OMS. That is a little bit more expensive, so when you look at the attached slides, there are some budget implications. This is just the estimate for PTR. So looking at adding whole school chilling systems to that has a cost of about $1.2 million when we see in the aggregate. So of that $117 million bond amount, a little over $5 million would be allocated to PTR and OMS and OHS for that safety security improvement that we had discussed previously. So to best they can estimate it, that is the cost. What that does to the overall bond package, if we go to the next slide, we can keep the overall bond package as we discussed at that $117 million price point, but there's a difference from what we shared a month ago. If we look at that, you'll see that the line item for purchasing property debt, we had previously allocated a couple $1 million. Based on the direction you asked the architect to look at from a month ago about the net cost for air, safety, security, heating, cooling upgrades, that increased the price point. So we decreased the allotment in that draft budget for the purchasing property debt. That is still as a line item written in the resolution. So you as a board of directors have the flexibility to spend no money on that line, or $2 million, or more if we have capacity. So really the couple of choices to do the cooling as discussed, as budgeted, we could either keep that bond at $117 million price point as we discussed and not attribute any money to that, or if the board felt passionately about wanting to allocate $2 million towards the bond repayment, to keep the AC included, as we think is possible, we would have to increase the total bond amount to maybe 119 million. So the draft resolution and the draft that we're bringing before you is really a recommendation around keeping that total bond price at 117. It means we would be able to deliver heating, cooling, safety, security, health upgrades as we discussed. And we would be unsure how much, if any, by the time that project is complete, what we would be able to put to the property debt. But because it's in the resolution, you maintain that flexibility. You don't lose that ability to own.
Ed, sorry, can you go back? I didn't catch this when I reviewed this before, but there's no dollar amount for roofing or that HVAC system maintenance. So
No, OMS, we believe, is nearing the end of its useful lifespan from its roof, but we do not have any dollars in this bond to go towards the new roof.
okay.
So Curtis, in his conversations with Matt, had put a line item in there if possible, but we don't have any current money allocated to replacing the entirety of the roof of OMS at this time.
Do we know what the cost of the new roof would be?
We haven't bid it out or have a firm amount. We have guesstimates, which we think anywhere from probably about 800,000 to 1.2 million. And that's an educated guess, not based on any current market analysis or pre-bid work or things of that nature. We haven't asked the architect or solicited bids outside. So nearing the end, is it catastrophic? No, and not in need today? No. Will it be sometime in the next 5 years? Quite possibly.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about the flexibility you have with this bond next. So the resolution, you have a copy, and I'm going to speak the highlights about what would be permissible to spend that, if approved, that $117 million on, based on the resolution draft. And this we need to make sure aligns to your wishes and direction, and if so, we'll be ready to move a final draft to you for your action next week. So in that would be representative of constructing a new 600-student elementary school on property that we own. We have the 200-student addition at Orting High School to really focus primarily on STEM classes and CTE. We have the safety, health, and security upgrades at middle school in Ptarmigan Ridge to include keyless access controls and HVAC improvements, and then an upgrade to the entry at PTR. So we have the keyless vestibules, heating, cooling improvements. We have the cafeteria gymnasium expansion. So that's the expansion at PTR. We have refinancing of the property at 510 and 710 Washington Avenue. And we have a line about adding temporary facilities to accommodate student growth as needed district-wide. That could be portables at the high school, it could be portables at Ptarmigan Ridge, it could be early learning facilities, because those are modular or temporary in nature. So if we want to allocate some money, let's say we get state funding for a couple million and you need $1 million, you could allocate a portion of the bond to that project. So those are the things that we discussed, and those bullet points would allow you to do those things. You are not allowed to spend money outside of what's in the resolution unless you as a board later come back and hold another public hearing and make that opportunity public and then redirect how those funds would be spent. So in other words, if you get through the next few years and you have $1 million, you want to put it to an OMS roof, we would hold a hearing and advertise such, and then you could take action at that time to reallocate money in that regard. So we would really hope that these bullets capture the things that you have said are priorities, and if not, now is what we would want to discuss. The average pricing of what that would cost based on our analysis would be $1.70 over the life of the loan. Those prices fluctuate each year based on what's happening with assessed valuation. In the short term, it's cheaper. 15 years from now, when we estimated our growth is only 3%, it's a little bit more expensive. But that's the average of what it would cost. And so what we really want to do is to do really a couple things at this point. The first question is, have we captured the board's vision and intent in the attached resolution? And if not, we would want to talk about that. And I think that would be step one of the conversation. Step two is, if assuming we're on the right track there, how would we want to engage the community and public? And we want to get your feedback so we can prepare any printed materials or hold any dates for future meetings and community engagement. So the first question we would have for you, based on Matt and Liz and myself, is, in this resolution, looks like it captured the priorities as a board.
In my opinion, I believe so.
I have one question I just want to clarify. So the STEM classrooms, are they going to be lab-like or maker-like? Okay, so that if there was an issue, as in to sharing it with another classroom, because I know we are short on lab space.
Correct.
So that would also be a plus for, let's say, chemistry or biology, because there would be additional lab space.
100%. Some of our science classes are career tech ed in nature, where they're
Yes,
feeding
I
career
know.
prep programs, others aren't. So dual purpose, they go to
Okay,
access by
excellent, excellent.
And this includes constructing new CTE classes kind of over here near the gyms, as well as renovating some of our other space in the existing building.
100%. In the existing curve section, that current STEM lab would be redeveloped as an ag sciences space. So there is money budgeted allocated for that. The culinary room doesn't have a single vent or a hood. It's not
That was
anywhere
always,
close to current industry standards, so it would be significantly remodeled. In our CFAC work, we really looked at what's the timeline for that investment, is it worth it? And we think, based on our long-term planning, we would have that curve section for at least the next 15 years. So that CFAC recommendation was to upgrade those facilities because they'll be in our inventory for a considerable length of time.
Well, I know that lab space has been a question over the years of the existing classes that we have, and so I just wanted
We have two small science rooms, and this would be used both by dual program, but we'd still keep the other two
to.
labs.
Right, but it would be additional space that could be used, which is much needed.
100%. And then in that resolution, lots of legalese language. It substantively looks pretty similar to what you have seen previously. Just what's different is the change in scope and the change in amount. And we did list anticipated state match money of anticipating 6.5 million. So if we got more, we could collect more. But we're putting our current estimate. If you remember last year, we were in the neighborhood of total qualification of around $11, $12 million. We just aren't advising we tap into all of that money at this time, because you'll need some amount of state match to help support a second phase down the road.
I think from my perspective, this aligns with, most importantly, what we've heard from the community as being a priority in this next bond ask. So when we surveyed the community, it was clear that, CTE investment for our high school was a priority, and safety and health upgrades are definitely important. So this, to me, reflects what the community has told us is important to them, and it's what the board has made a priority as well, in my opinion. So Joanne and Mike, I'll let you chime in.
Yes, I totally agree. I think that what we have, the bond, is exactly what the community has been asking for, and it's what we need. I think we should, if we have to, we won't be able to maybe pay as much down on the property or something like that. I think that we should try to save the 17 instead of the 18 and run it the way that we said.
Mike?
I would say I feel like we're right on track on what the community has asked us to do. I
insurance, and that we will be currently up to code?
You're not from the updates. They affect, anytime you improve antiquated heating and cooling systems, they could save money, like all the light upgrades we
Right,
recently
yeah,
did.
I assumed that we would save.
What will impact insurance potentially is the square footage.
Okay,
If we had
that's
slightly
good.
more square feet, we could see a slight raise in our insurance premiums, but it would be de minimis compared to the side of insurance we pay for risk.
Oh, that's what I was getting at, okay. And so we would be saving both on utilities and insurance.
Absolutely.
And operating costs as well, and, you know, more efficient, far more efficient elementary school, we will not be paying for that included building as well. I also just want to acknowledge that while all of the needs from the previous bonds still exist, we worked really hard to bring the cost down, which was another topic of feedback that we received from the community, that the previous bond was just too much. And so we went back to the drawing boards, and as I mentioned, the scope of this is much smaller, but still deciding to meet the needs of the students. So at least as much as we can. So just want to acknowledge that as well.
And some of the things, the new school especially will improve the traffic and parking situation in the Long Run, which is a major issue for
Yes.
everyone in the community.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That did surface in the feedback as well. Even though we don't control a state highway, we can influence with new development and improved access. Access and egress?
Yes, I was just gonna say.
Ingress, thank you, that was the word that escaped me. We can definitely help that.
Right, because it will be a plan for rather than
Yes.
what we can do.
Congested.
Okay, this.
Good. Okay, so we are all in agreement that this reflects the wishes of the board. So the draft resolution that we have here, I'm not hearing any need to modify it at this time.
Good.
Okay. Good.
Okay, perfect. And then, last time we were together, the board discussed an interest in thinking about community engagement and outreach. The next time you have a work session, it'll be chock full of hearing about school improvement plans. So what we can do is start to begin to create, if you remember last year, we had a one-pager handout for the board's review and outreach materials. So we can create similar, we can customize some materials. We wanted to really spend some time so that we had the opportunity to think about how you might want to engage the community in conversations after you make that decision and take action a week from now. Because what we can do is start to draft and create and make, or schedule meetings, or start to align calendars about whatever that interest might be. For this discussion, keep in mind that as a school system, we're allowed to communicate factual information. We're allowed one mailer outreach. We're not allowed to discuss about which way to vote. So although we get passionate and excited about things at this time, it's really about the factual outreach information and what are your wishes about how do we help support you in that regard, whether that's going to concerts or PTA events, or what can we do to help you as a board and a team and the district reach out and connect with our community. So we'd love to get your thoughts about that regard.
Well, the concerts was what I was going to say, and can we get a booth at the Holiday Bazaar for the district for information, just, you want to stop by, and we should look at the calendar and see what other kinds of events are.
I think there's two, oh, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I feel like, I don't know what we need to do, but, somehow if we can get brace of staff, right? Our teachers and educators that we have, right? Because I think we had quite a few numbers that did not probably vote. So get them on board, that side of it. And, I know we got a lot that are on, but, if we can at least get the ones that maybe didn't vote on board,
So when we think about the community feedback, we heard things around traffic, overcrowding, supporting career tech ed. Would you like us to put materials aligned to those talking points, graphs, charts? What would be most helpful? What Bonnie and I can do is take a look at the calendar and send dates to you to figure out would we like to do the outreach, because you've done the listen and learn, and now we've learned and now we've acted again. So we can try to pair up 2 of you at a time. I would predict we would create a table like we did last time with some logo, maybe some treats or cookies or such. Some type of handout, just so you have an anchor document to remember the months that we've spent dialoguing about the conversation. Are there particular talking points that you would like us to focus on? Would you like us to anchor around the community feedback and that sort of thing? What would be most helpful for you if you're sitting talking to somebody pre-concert?
I think one of the things to have a highlighter on somehow is the whole traffic situation. How are we getting traffic off of the highway so that people can easily see, oh, okay, that makes sense. It won't be, you know, the idea is that you'll have a long line going back and around, but it's not going back up at the highway. So somehow we can highlight that. I think people, even though it was on there, it didn't really draw attention or they didn't understand it, you know, how that was going to work. We could say it over and over again that, well, it's in the design, didn't you see it here? That somehow,
And parking.
yeah.
And parking.
Yeah. So I personally, if we can get that, and then of course, the HVAC situations and
Yes.
safety. I think the other things are pretty easily,
I think some just, this is kind of in the weeds, but I think one thing, like we had, you know, great posters indicating the proposed changes. But I would love to even separate out, like this one's just about the traffic. Because someone who's
Yes.
not really familiar with our buildings, it's kind of a lot to digest
Yeah.
when we had that one, you know, it was a beautifully done poster image, but let's single out, like, here's our investment in CTE space, learning space for the kids, and here's how we use, like, just visually break it up for people, so.
especially at
It's
those
easy to-
events that we're at.
Yes.
I mean, I know we would be able to do that for the mailer the one time,
Right,
anyway, that we can
right.
send. We'd have to have everything in there, but, yeah, that's a great idea too, having separate.
Traffic and busing, where the buses will be, because we really took that into consideration given the situation, our present situation. And sometimes it is the buses that are backed up.
Yeah, it's really important, and from my perspective, I thought, in the first run at the bond, we created a lot of opportunities where we invited the community to come talk to us. You know, we had our tables, we had listen and learns. We said, okay, come talk to us, we're available. We didn't have overwhelming attendance at those, and so I think we need to shift our approach to be outward. I want to go to the Chamber of Commerce, I want to go to the Lions and the Eagles, and really reach out, visit the businesses, and talk about having skilled students graduating from our programs and that they become employable then in our community. And so I think that outward, going out into the community and engaging people that way, you know, even maybe we set up a table at White Hawk, you know, in the park at White Hawk and invite people while they're in their neighborhood to come talk to us. And then also, I want to hear from community members. I really appreciated and thought the videos that were done were very high quality. I would love to talk to some seniors if they're willing to share with us what this investment means for the community, or maybe there's somebody from the chamber or the city council or somebody from the community who can talk about the importance of thriving school systems in our city. So I think that getting a business voice, internal communication is important.
You know, I know you think I'm being weird about the parking thing, but given the fact that how many people park in front of my house and on my street,
Yeah.
to walk the kids then up to OPS, because that's faster than the drive around.
Yeah, that's a good point, even the PTR pickup line, and as, you know, even the high school, that's part of that congestion too, is we have students coming in, but also parents dropping off. I think some of those traffic wins that we could have with a positive bond.
And another one that I think we need to look at is the senior center, right? And help and educate them on the possibilities, right? That they're not seeing that tax increase that you know, that could come, right? And get them, right? And we can get senior center people there excited, right? That's gonna help us.
So what do you think about, I like the idea of the individual posters. What do you think about doing individual videos the same way and having that, and sending them through that to the parents' square, the student square, and having like a video on, like, traffic, and so that they can click on, instead of having one long one, maybe just like one on traffic, one on speed, one on, that way it's like short to the point, and sometimes when you listening to a long video, you kind of lose concentration, but this way you can just click on what you're interested in, and it's
Yeah, a little
parents.
bite-sized info bite, you know, just one topic at a time, I like that.
Yeah, like Mr. Peters did, about the gym the last time,
Right.
when he showed the gym and the lunchroom.
Yeah. So Ed, going back to your question in terms of what do we want a one page, or we want lots of social media content? Definitely one flyer, of course, since we can't go beyond that. But maybe there's some facility updates that we can share that are, you know, not woven into the bond, that help create. One of the things that I heard was people wanted to like show me, you know, you need a new gym, show me why. And that's sometimes hard to show, but if we have an opportunity to do that, I don't know if everybody needs pictures of sitting in traffic. I think we've all experienced it,
But you're right, like with the CTE, specifically like the high school, you
Yeah.
know, some action photos of kids trying to use lab space without lab equipment.
Right.
Because we don't, you know,
Yes.
it's not there, that kind of stuff, that's, that could be powerful.
yeah. Michaela shared, you know, that story about her having to sit on the floor.
Yeah.
There's not enough seats even in that classroom, like things like that could be powerful. So,
I really think that's important, and, you know, just like showing the open grounding in the classrooms, showing, you know, just so it's very visual. These are things that we're dealing with, this, you know, and the reason we keep writing the bond is because we have no options, so
yeah.
just be real with them and letting them know, you know, what's
I also think if we're going to, I think one of the biggest traction we got was when we did a virtual meeting. We had more attendance at that, and I think if we're, I do really like the going out to the specific places, that if we wanted to do something to invite as many as possible, virtual, even, you know, the later evening or a weekend where more people would be apt to be able to attend that. I feel like virtual is a lot easier for people to do.
I agree, yeah.
And they can do it while they're making dinner and tending to the kids.
Yep. Or driving home and want to listen in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I was suggesting we go out to the community in addition to what we had done previously. So kind of that same cadence, you know, every couple weeks we had something going on, some kind of opportunity for people to learn about what the bond meant for our students. And so in addition to that, find ways where we can get out to the employers in our community and different groups. So I think that would be good. And yeah, definitely engaging our own employees. I think it's easy to assume they understand and know everything and are living and breathing it every day, but they're also working full-time jobs and managing their own families. And so if we can make it easier for them to have digestible information, I think that's worth it.
I was wondering, so are we still renting our gyms out to, like, I don't know what the, Orty basketball for the little kids, I don't know what it's called now, it used to be OAA, you know. If we could get some of the coaches from those teams that, you know, could make a little video about accessible practice space, I don't know, it was just, I'm just thinking, especially those little guys that are practicing, it's gonna make a difference that there's more facilities for the whole school district as they grow up. And we wanna get some of those younger families involved, because we were, low in the, when we looked at the different, age groups that go with.
Yes. Yeah, anything we can do to reach out to the elementary families who have a lot to do.
Yeah, I think that, I like that, and maybe like have the rest of the people do a short video, and then, like that basketball, and really, you know, all the people that are out of schools all the time, and, the people can have access to look at and see the impact that has for them also, because, you know, our Little League sports is pretty huge, so,
Yeah.
and maybe teachers, I don't know if we can do that, but can we ask, and they don't have to say how to go, but can we have certain teachers do videos on what they're dealing with? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, good question. I would say the degree to which districts use social media is a little bit up in the air from a PDC perspective. The rule around the one mailer was pre-website, social media, Facebook, Instagram. There was a little bit of called into question North Shore's practice when they did their last bond, because what the PDC looked at is what's different or unusual from your normal practice in the case around the specialty communication. Do you normally do videos? Do you normally encourage people to register to vote? Do you normally collect ballots? And if you're doing things for just this session, there could be an issue. So I think across the state there is some scrutiny over what we do. I think it would pass the test at today's current standard if what we do is something that we normally or regularly do. If we're using students to advocate for a particular kind of way to vote, that would be problematic. So we'd have to look at that filter and what's our usual accustomed practice, and if we're operating within that, we're probably safer. I will say though, there's some conversations about, is there a new normal at the PDC level? They've been holding some hearings and gathering some input about that. So what I tell you today could change, probably not by the time our election comes around, but at some point in the future.
Well, we do know that in the high school, I don't know if it was the civics class or what it was, that the seniors were all encouraged to register to vote, and that's been a long-standing practice. I know back when you used to have to register in person, you could register at any of the school offices. There was someone that could register you, so, I mean, it has been practiced for us.
Let me ask a clarifying question, if I may, just to make sure I have things. I hear the interest of the board is to run an open, transparent, factual communication as best as possible and align talking points to the feedback that we received in the 2 surveys, so people understand the connection between how we got here, why this package, how did we shape it or change it from previous. What I heard from a board interest is an outreach opportunity for 2 board members at least, no more than, but 1 or 2, to attend what we see are the widely attended public school-related events between now and through the 13th of February, so that you're able to answer questions, and I got some ideas about what those talking points on the one-pager might be. In addition, we do intend to create the posters like we did last time, and focus a visual representation based on these core priorities. And we are working on getting some clip artish pictures from our architect in that regard so that we can update those posters similar to how we've talked. So it should show kids in the trades, kids engaged in STEM type learning and things of that nature. I don't know how we represent keyless controls or cooler classrooms, but we'll figure that out. What what I did last time, and a team of my colleagues, we went to Senior Center, Lions Club, we went out to many community organizations. I didn't have one or more board members with me, but we could. So
Yeah.
that's the piece. If one or more of you have an interest in joining, we certainly can do that. Otherwise, I will do the roadshow with, I feel like who is the most impacted is in the best position to tell the story.
Yes.
If we can get Brandon to tell the story about what it's like, it's better to come from Brandon's mouth than my mouth. So in my mind this time around, if I can get a smattering of students or staff to help tell that story, that would be my preference, because that's closer to the heart of the impact. So that would be my hope. Could be some of you, I don't know, but I think that I captured the spirit and intent, I hope, of what you're wanting to see happen. You'll see a draft next week. Assuming the majority of you vote yes on that, then we will be, even up until then, working on building out those materials. I think it'll take us a few weeks to get those drafts ready, and then we'll be able to, end of November, early December, start that outreach. And I know we have some December-ish concerts, so we should be well positioned to have handouts for you all ready to go, so that we can start that late November, early December. If you remember, we didn't really start the outreach mostly with the community until after the first of the year. I think we would be wanting to start that earlier this time around.
On timing, I was just gonna suggest that we start earlier. The other piece I really wanna be careful about is, or not careful, wrong word, clearer is helping people understand the financial side of this. And there's so much confusion and misinformation, and even up until after the vote, people were still not quite understanding. So I really do want that transparency with the numbers and helping people understand. The other thing is, some of the groups like wrestling, for example, that had a big stake in this game, as we got further into the campaign, they got busy with postseason activities, and so if we can get some of those groups early, that would be good.
Now, I think the holiday bazaar is in November.
It
We
is,
have two, yep.
Oh, there's two of them.
one's been canceled.
Oh,
Yeah.
then we have one.
We have one.
Oh, okay. Is that when we're gone? I'm trying to remember when it is.
I got it.
No, we're here, it's like the
Hold please.
old
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
It's what?
I'm pulling it up.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'll
not pulling it
volunteer
up.
for it. Just let's have better chairs.
I'm gonna ask a clarifying question on Priceway. Carrie looks that up. I think the two big confusion points were, one, that the previous bond was actually paid off. We're no longer paying that. And I think the other, there were questions, what would this actually cost me? And in my mind, that's either the average, or you provide a calculator so people can figure that out. That makes that easy to figure out the price point. Are there other finance-related things that seem to be sticking points or confusion points, or would those be the two bigger?
I think those are the two bigger. I think it's just everybody's bottom line.
Okay.
My taxes will increase likely by $75 a month, or whatever that looks like.
Okay, we'll have drafts of many of these things, and you'll see them early and first. So hopefully the draft of the one-pager, we'll even start getting a draft of a mailer home done soon, particularly after we have some graphics from the architect to pair visuals with. And then we'll start to be able to feed that to you so you can give feedback to see if that aligns to what we discussed today. But I feel like I have enough of a sense to know your direction. We'll look to a date after ballots have hit homes, late January, early February, for a special board session about sharing information related to the bond. And that'll give us time to think about which of your voices, my voice, Matt's voice, Liz's voice, how do we want to organize that? If you remember, we gave I'll say 10 or 12 minutes of content, and then we solicited feedback or questions from community that were online. And we don't need to decide today. I think we'll just look at some potential dates, be able to feed that back to you to see if your calendars align. And then we'll have time to tune what that meeting format would be and how you want to organize that, assuming it's all virtual. If you want a hybrid option, then we can discuss that, or we can do even a couple options, one in person and one hybrid. Maybe you want to have people see our facilities, and we can think about piggybacking or tours or things of that nature. So we don't have to decide that today, but Bonnie and I will look at some potential dates and then communicate that back to you so that we can probably early next month know when that is and get that solidified. We want to make sure, particularly if we want architect or owner's rep or others there, we'll want to make sure that we have built ourselves enough time so we get the right people at the table.
We might want to just put a little something in there reminding people what the difference is between a levy and a bond, and that the bond is not going to pay teachers or give anybody raises or anything like that. It's for the
Yeah,
And that the state doesn't pay for public school.
right.
Yeah, we're looking, our estimate says about 5% of this bond might be paid for by the state. Unfortunately, it's not a very high percentage. So I feel like I have enough to go on, and we'll be working offline to see which of you can pair up. And we'll also be working offline to draft materials, a one-page handout for you. Whether it's cookies or treats or I don't know, we'll figure out what that is, but sometimes that brings the students in, of course, right?
Yes.
You have some cookies, you got a lot of customers on those dates.
The holiday bazaar would have free coloring sheets.
Coloring sheets.
Yeah,
But it's
the bond is
entertain-
November 19th.
The entertainment, oh, it is the weekend.
It's really, that would be a difficult one, but there is the Christmas tree lighting event, holiday in the morning, there's a few other things happening.
What day of the week is the 19th?
It's a Sunday, so we'll be here.
We'll be back. I will volunteer to go to it.
Okay.
That's the one by students, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's
No,
the
this is
PTA
PTA.
one.
Oh, it's PTA.
Oh, the PTA one.
That's what it
I believe the students are going to, at least the communication I got on the vendor side was that the students are gonna plan something for the spring.
is. Oh, okay.
So that's the one that they canceled.
Okay, okay.
The December 2nd one?
Yeah,
That's sad.
But I will do that.
I have you down.
Yep, just, I'm gonna get some coloring sheets, keep the kids busy while I talk to the adults.
We'll still work on those interactive sheets and things like that,
Yeah.
bookmarks, stuff like that we had for kids. Those were really, really much a hit, I think.
okay. Well, let's keep talking about communication and board, as you have ideas and thoughts, shuttle them as away. And I think we just wanna be all out on this and communicate and engage with as many people as we can and just reinforce how important this is for our students and our community.
So the office will contact PTA or whatever for a booth for us?
Yes,
Okay,
yep, we'll figure out how to do that.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, did Eddie, I guess, take being the president of that, CFAC, I guess,
Yes.
and now,
Good question. Yes, we do. Parallel to any work we do, there is a Citizens for Ording Schools committee organized. He is the president of said committee, so they will be doing outreach activities separate and apart from what the district does, so that is true. And I'll work to try to feed you some information outside of official channels in case any of you are interested in joining that committee as well. You certainly can. They're not probably going to take a step until you take a step, of course, because until you have decided and said this is the way we're going to go, there's not much to champion yet. It'll be a little premature.
I want to commend you, Ed, for hearing the voices from 5 different people and how we all say things, and to be able to put that into the plan that you get. I'm like, oh, how does he do that? It's a special skill. You're very good at that.
I spent 10 years in middle school, and when you spend a long time in middle school, you develop unique talent of lots of things happening at the same time. Joanne knows, she's been there.
It was a long
All
time ago.
right. Any additional thoughts?
Just reminder.
Okay.
I don't want, but it's good. Yeah, we love you, man. We really do. Whatever.
Then I will move on
Says
to board comments.
to be
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'll take it. It's a little bit
Okay, sorry. A little premature.
No, no, it's perfect.
I just wanted to say, remember the last time you were talking about rituals and the events that we have here that we want to make sure that we keep?
Preserve, yeah.
Yes, okay. One of the ones is the senior nights at those sporting events. They are so personal. The ones I've been to in the past were for girls soccer and girls fast pitch, and those are pretty fast and furious in the bad weather or whatever. Not like the football one. It's so interesting to hear all the kids' thoughts about themselves and their time here and their family. Yeah.
See the impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people who they will remember, coaches and teachers and, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very moving experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll probably speak about this at the next board meeting, but I attended the Daffodil Princess selection. And I've never gone. I have never attended that before, no. But it was a very well-spent hour. It was not long. So I highly recommend an attendance by anybody. I mean, I especially went because Michaela, and of course, she took the crown for Ording this year. So that was pretty exciting, but yeah.
Yeah, I went in 2001, so it's a special, and I wanted to go, but I was so freezing after that football game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was running between both, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited and so proud of Michaela for sure. And I wish I could have been there. I have been in the past and it's a beautiful, it's so awe-inspiring to see our students with such poise and grace and powerful words. So I can only imagine Michaela doing it. I happened to have gone to the football game, and I don't know if you guys followed my post, but to see Ording Stadium absolutely packed. Like, we were shoulder to shoulder and hanging in the aisles. There were so many people from the community there to support the team. And then to look across our beautiful field and see empty stadiums for the Clover Park team. And my heart broke for them. I mean, here's Joanne driving to Steilacoom on a late rainy night to watch soccer. And, to see our community stand up for the kids in that way is just so powerful, and that's, you don't get that in other places. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in our community and for all the families and people who don't even have kids at the school who were there for Friday Night Lights. It was really cool.
And the Thriller dance, and they were in their bare feet, and it was so cold.
But they were so
cold.
sharp. They were so good.
They were.
And the band? Oh my gosh. Yes. We need mics on the band though. I wanted to hear them loud.
Yes.
So they mic'd them at they were at the marching band competition over the last weekend, and they're mic'd then.
Good.
So they just didn't do it for that game.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm so proud of all these kids.
I would encourage one of you maybe to plant a seed to see if Michaela would be willing to share her speech. It's your second princess in 3 years. And when we talk about agency, all of those young ladies on the stage are an embodiment of what that means, what that looks like, what that sounds like. And just to hear the words from kids, when you give them the opportunity to speak and watch what happens, you just never look back. It's incredible. So I don't know if there's a space for that, but I would love to hear her share some of her words because it was very powerful. They all.
Yeah.
But you're right, the agency was also so apparent at the senior night because the kids decided, what was said about themselves and about their families or whomever they, were sharing about. So it's impressive to see the connections and the caring.
And also we don't have our student board reps here tonight, but just to shout out FFAs at nationals. So I just want to recognize them and all the work that led up to this moment. And I haven't heard results yet, but hopefully they're doing well.
Maybe we can have them do a presentation that in some way we can use in our outreach.
Yeah.
Hey, and a shout out to the staff that took a bite to the face. Stand up and do that. That was pretty neat to watch our staff do that and support our students that way.
Yes.
And you can thank the Hatzenbeeler family as well for their $700 of contributions
Oh,
to
no.
get to the top of the pyramid.
I also want to say that here it was Tuesday, Thanksgiving night, really cold, and Tyler Hawley, the athletic director, we didn't have anyone to announce, so he announced the whole game.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, and he did a great job.
Wow.
So, I mean, he has kids, and stuff that I'm sure are doing things, but it was really nice that he did that.
Oh.
That's cool.
Oh.
That's very cool. All right.
So much stuff I can't read.
I know, there's so many exciting things. Everybody pretend at the regular board meeting when Jaden and Michaela do their
Right.
reports. We haven't all talked about this already.
Right.
I want to get poker face.
Yeah. All right. If there's nothing further, then I will go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting at 6:55.
Shoot. They got done at like
Tell
45,
Ava
right?
good luck at the game tonight, Joanne.
Go Cards.